What is up, Pauper players? Welcome back to another Salt and Pauper video. Today we are taking a look at Jund Wildfires, which has recently popped back up in a couple major events for this one, namely UK Nationals. DukeLukeM managed to take top 4 with this deck, as well as his playing partner Amit placed inside the top 16, I believe 12th. And overall, there were 2 pilots for this deck in a field over 100 players, and both managed to convert top 16 finishes, which is wildly impressive. I was able to talk to Nix, who is also on this team, and they shared some of the testing data, and it looks like they were able to peak at about a 73% win rate in leagues while testing, which is insane. So this week we are going to run it through a league. We have some absolutely fantastic games for you today to look at, and a rather ridiculous finish that definitely got my heart pumping. I had to take a little bit of a break afterwards, but stay tuned for that. And we're also going to be playing a little bit of a game today's video just to celebrate the season and give you guys a little something special. So keep an eye out for anything strange you may notice throughout the video. All right, a quick deck tech to go through things. We have a bridge package in Jund, so we are running 4 of each Slagwoods and Dross Forest Bridge. We have 6 basics, 2 forests, 1 mountain, 3 swamps. We have 4 Twisted Landscapes and 2 Vault of Whispers. The basics are there for our Cleansing Wildfire package. We come with 2 Blood Fountains, 2 Toxin Analysis, 2 Galvblast, 2 Spellbomb, and 3 Clark Clan Shamans. This list is highly optimized. If you can't tell, there are lots of 2-ofs, even a 1-of later in the update, as you can see over here with this Pulse of Marasa at 3. We have 4 Deadly Dispute, 2 Eviscerators Insight, 4 Wildfires. Those are really the lifeblood of your early game. 4 Ichor Wellsprings, 2 Limbus, that 1 Pulse of Marasa. And then we get to our threat package here. We have a full 4 of the Refurbished Familiars, a full 4 of the Writhing Chrysalis, which has been, let's face it, the card to play right now in Pauper. 2 Snuff Outs, and 2 Nyxborn Hydra, or as I refer to it as Green Fireball. Going through the options here, so we have Pulse of Marasa and Double Blood Fountain to recur some of these threats. We don't have that many, so we do have to kind of maximize them. I do call this deck a board control value deck. This is very akin to how Affinity plays, which is probably why I picked it up so quickly and enjoy it so much. I am a huge Affinity stan. And this deck plays very similar to that. It's using Clark Clan and Toxin Analysis to wipe out early boards, generate card advantage that way. 1-for-1 threats that Clark Clan doesn't answer, and then go ahead and start slamming Chrysalises or an evasive threat like a Refurbished Familiar, and then shut the door on the game very quickly with a Nyxborn Hydra and a tap out. This deck has a lot of card draw, as you can see. Some graveyard, but not a ton, so graveyard hate really isn't that valuable against us, which is fantastic to limit other people's sideboard options. That being said, because we are limiting the efficacy of a lot of other options, they are very likely to bring in Artifact Exile against us to maximize bridges pressure, or pressure on our bridges, I should say, which is definitely a key factor when playing this deck and playing against this deck. That is a huge contention point, so be aware of that. Going into the sideboard here, we have a full 4 Duress. This is for the control matchup, which can be a little bit difficult. Also, I find it very useful into the Delver matchup because boomeranging your bridge in response to a turn 2 Cleansing Wildfire is an absolute backbreaking tempo swing that's very difficult to recover from. So definitely want to have a full 4 Duress ready for that. We have a 3rd Toxin Analysis as well as a 4th Clark Clan Shaman, really just to maximize the ability to wipe the board. I did find myself bringing in both of these quite often, whether or not that's indicative of just the matchups or whether or not maybe we should try to find room for a 4th one in the main. Hard to say. A 3rd Snuff Out. This is really just to shore up that Brute Scale matchup. Double Breath Weapon, again, This is really kind of here for fairies and things that Clark Clan doesn't clean up. Although with this deck not having the life gain that Affinity gets out of Reckoner's Bargain, you definitely do need these Weather the Storms to help recover, and sometimes the Breath Weapons would come in against red just to protect the life total and give you more options to wipe their board. We have a Singleton Troublemaker Oof. I did find a little bit of trouble finding value for this card coming in out of the sideboard. That being said, it can target Nyxborn Hydro, which is pretty relevant right now. And I did have that come up in my league. And then we have 3 Weather the Storms. Again, this is really just going to help stabilize against those red decks because that does pressure you quite a bit, at least through the burn direct damage, because Clark Clan does a really good job of keeping the board tidy. Again, this is also very useful against things like Rakdos Burn, which aren't going to be as Clark Clan friendly for you. And then 2 Avenging Hunters. This is really just for control mirrors and to give you something to add a little bit more of a clock when you don't have much resistance, or at least much in the way of counter threats coming out of the opponent, or they tend to play a much slower game. Something like Turbo Fog, for example, this would come in against, although that matchup does seem pretty tough. Other than that, guys, that's it for the deck list. Let's jump into round number 1 of this league and show you what this deck is all about. All right, we are against David Dorbecker. We are on the play. Let's see what our hand looks like here. And this is a pretty solid start. We have lots of insurance against the board. We have a redraw or 2 in the Blood Fountain, and we have a Snuff Out for a little bit of extra insurance. We are lacking something like a Deadly Dispute, but Twisted Landscape gets us our black source for the Snuff Out and Blood Fountain. And if we draw like a Cleansing Wildfire or anything like that to really start to accelerate our game plan, we're in pretty good shape. This looks like a keep to me. And we're going to go ahead and run it here. Lead off on the Wildfire. Fetching our Swamp. And then we'll lead on the bridge into the Blood Fountain. The opponent goes land in a Blood Fountain. This could be Affinity, but they show us a Slagwood Bridge, so this is looking like a mirror match, which is pretty surprising. This deck isn't all very popular quite yet. And Refurbished Familiar hasn't been played in the Jund Brood-Scale decks, or Glee combo decks, that I've been able to see lately. We do Galblast the rat there. Probably should have just Galblasted on my turn. What's up, guys? Sorry to interrupt the action, but during this video, you might see some random numbers or letters pop up like that one. Write those down. In the order they appear throughout the video, there are digits to one of my MTGO creator giveaway codes. So to the first one of you viewers that finds all 20 digits of that code throughout this video and cashes it in, you will get yourself some free play points, courtesy of Daybreak Games and MTGO creator program. So thank you so much to them, and happy holidays to everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Bye for now. And they do have a Wildfire into a second rat, which is pretty brutal. We're going to throw away this Clark Clan Shaman. They haven't shown us much on the ground, and if it is a mirror match, it's going to be against Writhing Chrysalises, and we're going to need Toxin Analysis in hand for the Clark Clan Shaman to be useful anyway. We do have a Blood Fountain in play and 4 mana, so we're able to make something happen there. The opponent has the Galblast to finish off our Writhing Chrysalis, but I think it's important to just play into that anyway and make sure that we're able to get value from our Blood Fountain to get them back. We cash in this Deadly Dispute immediately just to really start to generate some card value. Top deck more draw spells. We're going to take 1 hit from that, but that's okay. We top deck the Nihil Spellbomb, which is fantastic here, because if we can limit our opponent's Blood Fountain versatility and value, and we get ours, we're probably going to win this game. So there's the Writhing Chrysalis. We knew this was coming from the opponent. Pretty wild to run into a round 1 mirror match on what I would consider a pretty unpopular deck right now. And Lemboss into the Galv Blast isn't bad either. Really need to find like an Eviscerator's Insight or something like that. We're going to take a hit here, go down to 12. Makeshift Munitions does make me nervous. We are very close to dead from all these artifacts from the opponent. We're going to pop the food just to stabilize and keep drawing here. We're going to go with the Chrysalis. That should slow down and shut down the board. We do have another Galv Blast for this refurbished familiar if we want it. As soon as they sack a spawn, though, we know we can get rid of their Writhing Chrysalis, which is fantastic. So we just seize that opportunity right away with the trigger on the stack. And we're going to make the opponent kind of find a way to get through us here. We're going to crack this Blood Fountain almost certainly. There is the graveyard value we were worried about. This is a pretty good time to crack the Nihil Spellbomb, but we do have a second one, which is definitely great. We're going to go ahead and pop the Blood Fountain, and then they decide to try to respond with the Evolution Witness. We're going to go ahead and crack our Spellbomb to get rid of all of that. Then we can lead Chrysalis into a Spellbomb. And that sets us up pretty well here, still limiting their Blood Fountain value. And now we have a Deadly Dispute for one of these Wellsprings, and our Writhing Chrysalis is never going to be Galv Blastable. Pretty solid board state. The Evolution Witness already has a 1/1 counter, so unless they do something like play a Glee, which would be a little bit out of left field at this point, we haven't seen any indications of that, like Malevolent Rumble, for instance, would have been indicative of that combo. But they do show us a Brood Scale, which is pretty brutal. Get it? Unfortunately, we don't have any way to answer that right at the moment. We see the Toxin Analysis, which is great, but we definitely need either a Graveyard Recursion or our third Krark Clan Shaman. We do manage to discard the other Evolution Witness, which is pretty solid. And unfortunately, I think we're kind of out of options here, so we're going to just put on the gas. And gain some life with this Death Touch just to make sure we don't die to a Makeshift Munitions. If we do top deck the Krark Clan, we're going to have enough artifacts to sack it anyway. We were just crossing our fingers and hoping we're not dead. The opponent only had one card in hand, so hopefully they didn't top deck anything to kill us like a Glee. And it looks like it was a land, so they didn't hit the top deck to kill us. We do have the Snuff out now, fortunately, so if they do top deck the Glee, we're able to get them. And they go for the Blood Fountain, but once again, we hold that Spellbomb for that. They did top deck the Glee, which would have been terrifying if we didn't hit the Snuff out. So we're going to go ahead and snuff out their creature. And that should be the game here. Opponent down to 0 cards, and that's kind of how we want to do it. We still have a ton of draw left in hand, and we're able to put on the gas very quickly and turn the tide of the game when we ran out of options. Let's go to the sideboard and play out game number 2. All right, taking a look at our hand here. And let's take a look at our sideboard plan. All right, so we brought in our Snuff out, as well as our Duresses. Once again, just capitalizing on now knowing the opponent is on Glee, so really we're just going to try to not lose to the combo, and then we should be okay. Otherwise, our deck's pretty well positioned against it. We do take out the Krark Clan Shamans, but we leave in the 2 Toxin Analysis. This is really just to ensure that we're able to get through their Chrysalis. Normally we would take out Graveyard Hate, but We did see double Evolution Witness and obviously the running Blood Fountains. We want to limit their value on those, so we keep the Spell Bombs in. We're just going to try to fight them with the Duresses and limit their hand advantage, draw, and combo potential that way. Overall, pretty solid plan. Although I would have liked to be able to keep the Clark Clan Shamans in, I don't think that's the way that we're going to end up winning the match. So went ahead and took those out. Didn't bring in the Troublemaker. Oof. We're really not going to try to fight them once they have landed a creature. I just don't think that's the way to win. Or once they have landed the combo, rather. I just don't think that's the way to win. So we're going to try to just limit them assembling the combo. Could have definitely brought in the oof against like their bridges, against the makeshift munitions win condition that we saw, but just didn't really want to take anything else out of the deck for the oof. Probably could have brought in 3 Duresses instead, but that's how I went. And let's go ahead and kick off the game here. Opponent leads on a bridge. We're going to do a black source here just to make sure we don't lose. And that'll give us a Duress and Snuff Out on our next turn. We top deck an untapped land, which could have led to a Lembas, but decide to just develop the bridge and Duress. We hit a Deadly Dispute out of the hand. And we do see that they have a Basilisk in hand, so we have to be a little bit careful of that. They did show us that they drew the Refurbished Familiar, though, so we do still have perfect information, which is nice. And then we go ahead and rip that Gal Blast out of the hand since we know about it. And since they're already down to 2 cards in hand, we don't really want to count on them having to top deck another relevant card to Duress. And if they did top deck the Glee or something like that, they're going to play it before we can Duress it out of their hands anyway. We get to develop the Refurbished Familiar and trade, which is great, and force them to play the Brood Scale. So we're just going to crack our landscape here. Opponent on no cards in hand. This is a fantastic position for us. We have the Eviscerator's Insight and the Snuff Out. We're just going to go ahead and snuff out this now. Had no reason to suspect like Tamio's safekeeping or anything like that, for instance. Could have Duressed just to make sure. Ultimately, it wouldn't have mattered, though. They just develop into a Writhing Chrysalis. We get to play a Refurbished Familiar here. We top deck the Gal Blast, which is fantastic. We do have Metalcraft. But we're just going to take the 2 here, force them to try to sacrifice a spawn. They don't take the bait, so we're going to crack the Eviscerator's Insight on the Lembas. They do show us that the last card in their hand is a Mountain, which is fantastic. And we're just going to develop some more artifacts. We can chump block with 1 if we need to, but this gives us a redraw. They top deck a Wildfire, which is a little annoying, but it's fine. They are now out of cards in hand that we know about. We develop another Lembas, top deck a Wildfire. We're not going to play the Wildfire just so we still have access to the Gal Blast. We are forced to try to trade with this Writhing Chrysalis in the same way they traded with ours last time. We hold onto it until end of turn, and they end up trying to go for the combo, and we have the Gal Blast, which is fantastic. We top deck a Snuff Out, which is even better. We're going to go ahead and do that now. Opponent's still on 0 cards in hand, but now they have no pressure. If they have another dead top deck, we're going to be able to Deadly Dispute one of these Lembas, and then we should be in real good position here. We do have Eviscerator's Insight in the Graveyard 2 to flashback if we need it, and we top deck a Spell Bomb, so we're going to go ahead and crack that and draw a card immediately just to make sure the opponent doesn't top deck like a Blood Fountain or something and try to get back into the game that way. The cool part about not being on the combo is that when you're low in cards and low in resources like this, you have a lot less dead draws. I imagine the opponent right now could have like a Glee in hand or lots of dead top decks, especially after we've popped a Graveyard Removal, so they could have like an Evolution Witness, Glee in hand, something like that, and nothing to do with it, which is pretty awesome. We're going to go ahead and double Refurbish Familiar just to rip both cards out of the opponent's hand, or at least ensure that we can. But this sets up the Nyxborn Hydra very, very well. Even though they have a rather big Writhing Chrysalis, we should be able to Nyxborn Hydra bigger. They can make their Chrysalis a 6-power creature. We do go ahead and tap out after playing the Refurbished Familiar just to make sure that we get all the cards out of their hand. We're going to leave the Toxin Analysis up, though. Turns out we didn't need to do that. We could have just paid one more. So we're going to go ahead, but we get them to force sack all of their dudes to trade here, which they wouldn't have done if we had tapped out for it. So it does work out, because now they're at 0 cards in hand and 0 cards on board. Which is pretty good for us, all things considered. They top deck a Brood Scale, but that's fine. We're going to close the door on this game very quickly. Galvblast is exactly what we wanted, once again, just to limit the opponent's top deck options. So now even if they did draw a Glee, they're not winning the game on the spot. They top deck a Makeshift, which is a little bit annoying. They're going to be able to pick off our flyers. And now they can draw extra cards off that Ichor Wellspring that we had stranded on their board. We're just going to attack here, start to whittle down their resources. They've got to sack things off in order to jump out and block, which isn't all that bad for us. They do evolve, or adapt rather, just to sacrifice the spawn token to the Makeshift, which is good for us. It means they no longer can immediately top deck a Glee to try to go off, because they need something to die and they can't make a spawn token. But with the Makeshift Familiar and another artifact, they do have a way to do that. They could have just picked off one of our spawn tokens, something like that. We could have always sacrificed them in response to the Glee before it resolved, though, to make them not be able to kill something, but they have an artifact creature, so they would have been able to go off with it anyway. Luckily, they didn't top deck it. We've done a really good job of limiting their outs throughout the game. Gonna go ahead and start to force them into some awkward positions here. We didn't need to do this, which is pretty annoying. Could have definitely just not played into the Galvblast. Was getting a little bit antsy, low on time, just tried to put extra pressure on them. Didn't need to. And instead, we get Mega Punish there, only card in hand, and it was a Galvblast, which is pretty annoying. But we do make the other Writhing Chrysalis huge, so this is almost certainly going to present a lethal threat very quickly. Top deck another Writhing Chrysalis, but now we're all the way up to 23, so unless they top deck exactly Glee, we're not dead, and there shouldn't be much left for the opponent to do here. We're going to be able to swing once again. Just looking for like another Toxin Analysis, or maybe another Hydra just to close the door on it right away. We're just going to play another Writhing Chrysalis and get in there. Once again, force the opponent to block down. And they're really going to have to go in on it here to destroy this Hydra and avoid lethal. We're just going to Deadly Dispute it. Not really a problem. We're going to immediately snuff out the Basking Brood Scale just to make it so they really don't have any top deck options. We're gonna crack all these spawn tokens before they can play before they get mana for Makeshift Munitions back. Not that they have enough artifacts to kill a Chrysalis anyway, but this should make it so that they don't have any single top deck that can save them. They're dead from 2 sources, and GG's. All right, match number 2. This one's against Oborgs. We do win the die roll, so we're gonna be on the play once again, which is fantastic. And this is a very solid hand, so we're going to run it with this and see what happens. We'll just lead on a bridge. We'll probably go the forest, so we have all 3 colors into the Wildfire here. There was a line where we developed the Vault of Whispers into the Refurbished. But very quickly, it looks like the opponent's on like Naya or 4-color Gates. Could be Ephemer Gates, too. That was a deck that was popular a little while ago. This looks like it might be like the Lose to Not You deck that's running like a bunch of mainboard Flag Bearers to not lose to Glee. With like Basilisk Gate backup maybe, but very weird to see this deck floating around in the meta right now. We're just going to deploy some artifacts here, some draw spells. Opponent goes to Basilisk Gate. We've got the removal. Crack it to draw a card. And start to apply some very fast pressure here. We're hitting a little bit of a dead sequence. Opponent goes for the Writhing Chrysalis, which is pretty annoying. That slows down our pressure immensely. We top deck another Wildfire, though, which is fantastic. We needed that after cycling the land. The land cycling has been very relevant in this deck, which surprised me. It's pretty rare that you cycle those typically, but in this deck particularly, it's been very relevant. Once again, we're just going to hold the Spell Bomb. Thinking about cashing that in. Didn't expect the opponent to buff an Eldrazi spawn here. Suppose that is the correct play. I just hadn't really expected that. Top deck a Pulse here. Pretty solid. It means that we can definitely just block with the Chrysalis. We're going to go ahead and swing out here. This just makes it so that we're able to Clark Clan Shaman kill their Chrysalis without having to kill ours. I was really depending on optimal blocks there from the opponent. Didn't know if they'd take the bait, but they did, so we're able to wipe their board while preserving ours, which is fantastic. We have to sacrifice a familiar for it, but we get it back anyway. And this is just going to line up very well into tap out for Hydra next turn. Opponent has an Evolution Witness. Again, very strange lineup from the opponent. They go into a Writhing Chrysalis and play a Sacred Cat. That's not really concerning. The opponent at 10, we should just be able to tap out here and kill him. The opponent at an effective 6. And we're going to have a 10 mana creature, which puts them at 1. A little bit annoying, but it does mean their Writhing Chrysalis can't block our Writhing Chrysalis. And we have them pretty dead. The Lunarch Veteran is super annoying here. Gaining them to 5 life, it means that our flyers aren't quite enough to get the job done. But they still only have 5, 6, 7 toughness on board, so they should be dead. Barring something very strange. And it might be a little bit of a spectator bug, but I do believe the opponent scoops here. They might have made us attack for lethal, but it is lethal. If we count it up here, they've got 5, 6, 7 life, 8 life on the Sacred Cat if we count the life link. So that's 13, and we're attacking for 14 with the trample. So should be a done deal here. We're going to go ahead and head to sideboard and head to game number 2. Alrighty, game number 2 here. And this is a solid hand. Unfortunately, we need a green or a red source to really do something with it. We swapped out the spell bombs for a second, or for our 4th card plan and a 3rd toxin analysis. The graveyard, although we did see Sacred Cat and Evolution Witness, didn't seem like that was really going to be the problem area, so brought in a little bit of extra board wipe just to make sure. Things with like Lunarch Veteran really lend me towards the fact that they're going to go really wide. Definitely could bring in the breath weapons here. Considered that, decided there wasn't anything we'd rather cut. We wanted to keep the extra spot removal just in case they do have like an early creature drop to start gating up and we're not able to get ahead of it with things like the Clark Clan Shaman or find a Death Touch answer. So we kept a little bit of extra answers. Breath weapons could have been good there, but decided not to go with it just because I think they're probably going to play a bunch of like X3s, like we saw Medic, Dawnbringer Cleric, things like that. So went that direction. Afraid the opponent could have a whole lot of artifact removal though, so that is definitely something to consider here. I'm going to go ahead and keep. It's definitely a risky keep. We're looking for like a Cleansing Wildfire or something like that. We're going to go into a Blood Fountain. That does give us Eviscerator's Insight to try to hit a land drop, which is fine. Opponent doing the gate thing. It's not super exciting, just because gates are going to be pretty slow to start. They go Malevolent Rumble here, which is pretty interesting. Card I hadn't seen previously. And show us an Armadillo Cloak, which is pretty rough. Go for the Eviscerators inside at end of turn, and they have a Cast and a Fire for our bridge after, and then we top deck the Wildfire, which is brutal. They go Chrysalis, and we're in a pretty bad way here. We're going to need this Deadly Dispute to do a ton of work. We're going to take some damage, but the opponent has a Dust to Dust, which is definitely brutal. We are able to Deadly Dispute our bridge, but unfortunately that's going to keep us off of green-red mana for quite a while. We don't have an untapped green or red source here, which is brutal. And we're stuck with 4 Chrysalises in hand, which is too many. Opponent doesn't gate, which is a little bit surprising. They just hit us for 6. We are able to play out a Chrysalis here. We can snuff out a creature if we need to. We might have to. Yep, they go for the gate. And then they have a Thraben Charm to kill our Chrysalis. So that is GG's. We're going to head to game number 3. Really, really tough run out through a lot of Artifact Hate. I did mention in the deck tech that Artifact Hate was one of the key factors. You really got to fight the bridges, limit the Cleansing Wildfire power. And that's what they did, and it was very effective. So we're going to go ahead and be on the play this time, though. Hopefully we can get a little bit better run out. Still lacking a bridge. That is pretty rough, but if we know that they're all-inning on artifact removal, this is a pretty solid hand to start with. I think we're just going to run this and hope to make something happen despite artifact removal. This does kind of clear the way for a lot of our land drops and force the artifact removal on things that we're okay with them exiling, like the Lembas, like the Wellspring, things that have already gotten the value. We do have a Swamp for the Snuff Out, which is great. And we go ahead and hit our bridge. Opponent doesn't have land destruction, which is fantastic. It means this Cleansing Wildfire is going to be on. We go ahead and play it that way, just in case we top deck a Galv Blast. And that was really just in case they go to kill our artifact, because we're afraid of that. We're going to go ahead and burn the Snuff Out here. Would have taken 5 damage instead of the 4, and they would have gained 5 life, so it makes sense to just burn the Snuff Out. Take a little bit of a developing turn, but now we can start to play out our threats. Gonna go Refurbish Familiar into the Writhing Chrysalis. They're just gonna Heap Gate to make a treasure in F6 here. And we're gonna continue the Galv Blast bluff here. Could have ran out the Clark Clan Shaman. Maybe should have. But we do get to block and sacrifice to deny the life gain with the Eldrazi spawn anyway. We decide now that they've deployed a journey, we're just going to try to race them. We have the Snuff Out to kill their Sacred Cat if they take us that direction here. So we just go ahead and wait for them to attack. Hopefully they went for the double for the lethal, but they didn't get greedy. We are able to Snuff Out, though. They have a second journey, which is pretty brutal. Fortunately, it's only a creature, so we end up with the Nyxborn Hydra anyway. We get our Writhing Chrysalis back, but with no buddies. Fortunately, we can make it some buddies, so we're going to go ahead and deploy our second Writhing Chrysalis. And we can go ahead and force some blocks here. Now we'll spend a little bit of our mana. It's not like they have another Thraben Charm active anyway. And we're going to go ahead and Deadly Dispute one of these Wellsprings and then display Clark Clan Shaman. We're just going to go ahead and pop for 1 here on the Sacred Cat to make sure that they can't lifelink us. And then they go for the Armadillo Cloak, and we have the Snuff Out to close out the game. So GG's to the opponent. Match number 3. Here we go. All right, into round 3 we go. 2-0 so far through 2. Definitely a strong showing for the early matches of the league. Let's hope it holds up. And we're going to go ahead and be on the draw here. Let's see what that opening hand looks like. It's a little bit slow, but not too bad. We do have Refurbished Familiar into Chrysalis, so we'll probably be all right. Turn 1 Utopia Sprawl from the opponent makes me think that this might be Ponza, but it looks like it's going to be Boggles. Not a deck I was expecting to play against. We are desperately looking for a Clark Clan Shaman here. Fortunately, we know we have a very good sideboard plan. And with Toxin Analysis, we even have non-targeting kill spells just by giving our creatures Death Touch, which is very, very solid until they have First Strike. They go for a Benevolent Blessing. That is annoying with the Clark Clan Shamans. And funny enough, our Reach creatures can't actually block this Ledgewalker, but our flying creatures can, and that's good enough. We're going to go ahead and play out this Chrysalis into a Lembas, get another Refurbished Familiar. We decided to hold back just so we can block if we need to. A little bit worried about something huge like an Ancestral Mask with, like, Rancor. Fortunately, they don't have the Trample, so we can chump block. And now we can hold the black open for the Refurbished Familiar with Death Touch. So if they don't have First Strike, we're in great. And it doesn't look like they do because they just attack. We're going to go ahead and deploy the Death Touch. And the opponent just scoops it up. And not only do they scoop the game, they scoop the match. So they must have looked at their sideboard and realized they really didn't like where they were. May have been frustrated. I've definitely noticed that because of the core of this deck, people that don't know the subtleties, like the difference between Refurbished Familiar and Malevolent Rumble being kind of the key, like, signpost of which version of this deck you're on, they may have thought they were up against Glee and just gotten frustrated and not wanted to play. I know that there's a lot of frustration against Glee back-to-back matchups in leagues. This wasn't a Glee matchup for the opponent, but they might not have known that. But either way, they scoop the match, and we are 3-0 through 3. So let's head to game number 4. All right, match number 4. We're up against Deli 98. We are on the play, which is fantastic. Let's take a look at what our hand looks like. That's a no-lander. Can't keep that. That is also a no-lander. Can't keep that. And we go ahead and keep a 5. It's not the best 5 I've ever seen, but it does give us lots of draw options. Unfortunately, the opponent just shows us a mountain, which means that we are in for a world of hurt. They lead on a Clockwork Percussionist. After a mold of 5, you never, ever want to see a mountain. Really, really hoping for a Clark Clan Shaman here, Wellspring here, and we don't see a Clark Clan Shaman yet. We do need to set up for a Shaman very quickly, though. We're going to go to 14 here. Opponent has one of the better starts the deck can have, attacking for 5 on turn 2. We're just going to play the Spell Bomb. We've got to be able to sacrifice one of these landscapes for red. We're just going to do that now. We are at 14, though. And the opponent is attacking for 2, 4, 10. We're going to 10. And it's very likely that they've got a Gal Blast or something to finish us off. Or not a Gal Blast, sorry, because they only have 2 artifacts. But something like Fire Blast, something like that. Could have sacrificed this for green and hoped to draw a Clark Clan Shaman, but unfortunately, without the ability to also have a life gain source, we were dead to pretty much any 3 cards this deck could give us at 4 life. So we just scoop it up. We're going to save the mental energy here, go to sideboard, and take them to game 3, ideally. All right, game number 2. Let's take a look at the sideboard here. We are going to be on the play. Still not a horribly strong hand, but probably fine. We take out all the Gal Blasts and the Snuff Outs. Don't really need them here. We also take out a Blood Fountain. We bring in the extra Clark Clan Shaman, the extra Toxin Analysis. We bring in both the Breath Weapons and all 3 Weather the Storms. We also take out these Nihil Spell Bombs. So definitely a big sideboard adjustment here, but hopefully it's going to be enough to hold back the board for them and also keep our life total topped up against their direct reach. This is a lot of redraws, but it is a rather slow hand. We are going to keep it, though. We just hope that they don't have the ideal run out again. Turn 1 Percussionist is definitely a little bit concerning if they curve that directly into some Goblin Tomb Raiders again, but hopefully that's not the case this time. So I'm just going to go ahead and see what happens. Top deck the Wildfire, though, which is fantastic. I mean, if we're going to win this matchup, that's the way we're going to do it. So, going to go ahead and take the play and the extra turn here. Opponent shows us a Kessig Fire Breather, or Flame Breather, rather, which is not what I was expecting to see out of this matchup. Definitely something a little bit different. We Lembas into the Weather the Storm, which is great. Unfortunately, we tapped incorrectly here. We were playing around the Eviscerators inside on the Lembas, but Opponent just plays a couple hasty dudes, and that's okay. We're going to play into this Toxin Analysis and Weather the Storm. Writhing Chrysalis is definitely where we want to be. It's going to gum up the board quite a bit for them. And the Flame Breathers are not doing anything as they have not played a single spell, only creatures thus far. We're not going to show them any Clockwork cards yet. We hit the Blood Fountain, still definitely looking for a Cart Clan Shaman, but we're just going to Weather for 9 life here, try to keep us out of reach. We unfortunately passed through priority in combat there to sacrifice our creatures to Writhing Chrysalis, which is super unfortunate because, you know, now it's vulnerable to all of their removal, which is not ideal, like that Lightning Bolt, for instance. So we're taking damage here. We didn't really need to take damage here. Not ideal, definitely not what we're hoping for to turn this game around. We're going to go for a Lembas. Still looking for a Cart Clan Shaman here. We are 20 cards into the deck. Haven't found one of our 4-ofs. Definitely a little bit brutal. Drawing 3 here off the Deadly Dispute. Really going deep now. We were looking for another Weather or another... or that Cart Clan Shaman. We do have the mana, we're just waiting. And unfortunately, they top deck a 3rd artifact, which turns on the Scald Blast, which is very annoying. We're going to go to an effective 3, so we're going to pop this Lembas just to make sure that we stay out of Fire Blast, Scald Blast range. Wellspring. Still haven't found a Cart Clan Shaman. Deadly Dispute. Where is a Cart Clan Shaman? We're 31 cards in deck. All right, there's a Cart Clan Shaman. So, fortunately, we're going to go ahead and force them to Galblast the Cart Clan Shaman, which is great because it means it's going to preserve our life total by 4. And then we can go ahead and pop the Cart Clan Shaman. We're going to pop it for 3 just to make sure all of their creatures die. And they're down to 2 cards in hand, but they do have 2 cards exiled they can cast. Or they did from the Clockwork Percussionist. Those are gone now. And now we can double Chrysalis here and really kind of turn the board around in our favor. This Hydra is going to end the game very quickly because we have a ton of mana on board. So we're just going to go Chrysalis into Chrysalis here. Probably play a Lembas, and that'll give us the ability to heal up. The opponent does have 3 cards, which means we are kind of at risk because we are under 9. And that's a scary place to be against a deck that plays Fire Blast and Goblin Grenades and stuff like that. So we're going to go ahead and sacrifice a couple of these and really kind of looking for something here. Unfortunately, we hit the Weather Storm just a little bit too late. That would have been nice, but it is what it is. We do have 4 creatures on board, 2 of which are 4/5s, and we have 3 life available to us, so we are at an effective 11. Opponent's not seeing too much action here. The synthesizer triggers have both hit lands, so we're actually in a pretty good position. Now we can start to put some pressure on. Could have definitely tapped out for a Nyxborn Hydra there, but I think we're just going to hold up both these Lembas. So we're just going to suit up the Hydra to fly over and put some pressure on them that way. Could have definitely put it on one of the Writhing Chrysalises, but I think that if they go wide, it's likely the Writhing Chrysalis have to probably stay home. They do go ahead and Bushwhacker off of a Koldatha. We were afraid of them holding a Bushwhacker or a Koldatha to combo between them. We can go ahead and just block, block, block. We're going to sacrifice to go ahead and crack one of these Lembas and then play a Weather the Storm. But the opponent just goes ahead and scoops here. Not really sure why. They had 2 cards in hand. They didn't need to die, but they go ahead and just scoop it up, head to game number 3. It's fair to say I think we've stabilized in this position anyway. But yeah, early scoop from the opponent. All right, and the decider, game 3 here against the Koldatha opponent. This is round number 4, currently 3-0. This is a pretty solid opener. Would be better with a board wipe or a Weather the Storm, but you know we can't really ask for much better. We have a little bit slow, but a couple of artifacts here. We have an Eviscerator's Insight for some redraw. We have Chrysalis to come up the board if we can curve into it. Unfortunately, I think we can do better, so we mulligan here. And we do much better, so it was a great mulligan for us. We even hit the Weather the Storm off the top, which is great. Just hoping the opponent doesn't have, like, a Cast and a Fire or something. But we didn't see any of those last game. So probably pretty solid. We're just going to play the Clark clan here and pass, see if they attack us. We popped the Vault of Whispers for the Clark clan Shaman, knowing that we have an untapped land to play Cleansing Wildfire. But they do have a Cast and a Fire for our bridge. Unfortunately, they have an immediate rebuild of all 4 creatures. No Bushwhacker. We were worried about the Bushwhacker if we ignore it the first time, but could have just taken the 4 there. We're down to 11. We hit the bridge, but it might be too little too late here. This is 6 damage, and we're really not in a good way. 7 damage here. We're going to 4. And unless we hit exactly a Clark clan Shaman, I don't see any way out of this. That is not a Clark clan Shaman. And unfortunately, that is all she wrote. Just one simple Cast and a Fire, and that was all it took. We have Weather the Storm to not die, but it's really not feeling great for us here. Show us Epicure into a Tomb Raider. Yeah, we don't really have a way to win the game here. We need a Clark clan Shaman. That has been the story of this match. Unfortunately, we only saw one and we misused it a little bit. Tried to be conservative there and just play into the turn 2 Cleansing Wildfire by sacrificing a land, but them holding Cast and the Fire from us in game 2 really paid off because we got absolutely blown out by it in game 3. So well played to the opponent. They take the match in what I would consider generally a pretty favorable matchup. We just really did not see the sideboard pieces we needed in that game 3, even despite a great mulligan to 6. From an okay hand. So off to the final round here. Let's see if we can finish this 4-1. All right, guys, this is the epic finale I was talking about. This is Ganja Janga, and we are on the play. And this is a match. So buckle up. It's gonna be one. It's gonna be something. This match had my heart pumping, so strap in, grab some snacks, pause the video now, come back when you're ready, and strap in and hold on to your butts, because we're going to have a game here. This is an okay hand. The Deadly Dispute fixes our mana for red if we need it to, so we're going to go ahead and just lead on a Blood Fountain. Opponent shows us Forest and Finhorn Elves, so this is immediately an Elves matchup. We've got a Clark clan Shaman in hand, which is great for us. We know that that's how this is going to have to go. We're going to Deadly Dispute. We hit a bridge, which is great. We get to Cleansing Wildfire immediately. We're willing to risk the hit from the Timberwatch here. They only have 2 creatures on board, so we weren't too worried. They do have a Mass Vandal for our bridge, which is super annoying, but we're just going to go ahead and wipe the board here. They only have 3 cards in hand, so we're going to go ahead and wipe it. Now, this is a strange interaction here, so I want to ask the crew here, do we know if this card is bugged, or maybe I'm just misunderstanding it? So, from what I understand, you look at the top 5 cards, you may reveal any number of creature cards from among them and put the rest and put those into your hand, right? And then you put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. They revealed 1 creature. They drew a lot more than 1 card. So I'm not understanding here. Maybe, like, is this card bugged? How does this work like that? I'm not quite sure I'm understanding, because I think they just drew 5, but they showed me 1. So somebody please explain down in the comments below how that works, because we're just going to lead on a bridge here. Opponent has another Masked Vandal. They're going to go ahead and kill our Blood Fountain, but we're going to Spellbomb their graveyard in response so that they can't exile a creature, and our Blood Fountain is preserved. We're going to go ahead and play some creatures here. This is all fine. No pressure, no Timber Watch, no anything like that. We're just going to run out of Writhing Chrysalis. Opponent has something huge here for a lot of mana, and it is unfortunately green Fireball, and they're going to put it on their 1/3, which is even more frustrating, but we've got to go ahead and chump here to preserve our life total. We do double pop the Cart Clan Shaman here just to make sure we wipe the Hydra off the board too after the fact. We've got a Galv Blast here. See, opponent reveals 4 cards there and only draw 2, so that one's working as intended, right? Because they showed us 2 creatures. We're going to go ahead and pop that Blood Fountain to get back our Cart Clan Shaman. We can just take the 1. We're doing fine here. They have a Well-Wisher, which is a little annoying, but fine. Once again, we'll go with the Writhing Chrysalis plan, just to gum up the board, try to present a threat. Winding Way draws them 4 cards. See, that one I'm not sure about. So draw them 4 cards, they revealed 4 cards. So that checks out, right? Okay, we're good. Continue. They exile the bridge, which is super annoying, but it's fine. We neglect to pop the Cart Clan there after, instead of exiling the bridge, just to preserve our Cart Clan if we do manage to hit a Toxin Analysis. But we have both in the graveyard already, so realistically we should have just popped it there. Opponent tapping out again, which is pretty scary, because it means they've got another Hydra. And unfortunately, this Galv Blast is not actually 4 damage, so if they do put it on the Mass Vandal again, we can't even stop it, which is super annoying. So we're going to go ahead and Eviscerator's Insight, one of these spawn tokens. Hope that we see something worth something. We don't. So we're taking a lot of damage here, which is not ideal. Fortunately, we do have some time, so, you know, it's not too bad. Sacrifice the other one. Hope that we find something. We do hit a Snuff Out, so that's the first step here. Unfortunately, stranded with double Cleansing Wildfire in hand, which is pretty rough. We hit a Snuff Out, so that is positive in life. And the opponent's just going to play at Gen percent. So we are staring down a huge board here. Opponent at 30. We are pretty far behind. But this deck does have, you know, some shenanigans. Unfortunately, that is not enough shenanigans, so we're just going to go ahead and scoop it up, go to game number 2. We are down about a minute here, so definitely want to not play any longer than we have to once we see the game is lost. Alrighty. Final match, game number 2. We're going to be on the play here. And Cart Clan Shaman, Breath Weapon, Refurbished Familiar. This is a great hand, so let's take a look at the sideboard plan, shall we? We know that they're rocking with lots of exile artifacts, so we're going to take out a couple Cleansing Wildfires here. We also take out a Galv Blast and the double Nihil Spellbomb. Don't need any of that. We're going to bring in the extra Toxin, the extra Cart Clan Shaman, both Breath Weapon. Oh, and we brought in the Troublemaker Roof. That's the last card we brought in, just to deal with those pesky little Hydras. Alright, so other than that, yeah, this looks like a great hand. We're going to go ahead and keep. We'll lead on a bridge. Breath Weapon value here is going to be pretty crucial, but we are just going to lead on a Cart Clan Shaman here. Hopefully this will slow them down, or at least make their turn a little bit awkward. We go into a Refurbished Familiar here, make them discard a Timber Watch. That's great for us. They go with a Quirion. That's also fine. And a Meet in a Tavern. So they go from 2 cards to 7 cards. We all saw that. And they revealed 1 Fintorn Elves. So there's definitely some shenanigans going on here. Have to bring that up. And definitely some strangeness happening. But we're going to try to play through it, see if we can't beat it anyway. And admittedly, this hand is looking pretty stacked. We have a second Cart Clan Shaman, so we've got 3 board wipes just kind of chilling here. We do want to save the Cart Clan Shamans for when we need them. Like right now, for instance, we're going to go ahead and double boom that just to get rid of that pesky Hydra. We top deck a Chrysalis, which is fantastic. We do have a Snuff Out, and we have another Cart Clan Shaman, so this is kind of where we want it to be. Start to put some pressure on the board here. Opponent goes Ranger into Elves. Very similar board state. We're just going to go ahead and swing here, see what they do. We're going to just take it, which is fine. We're going to maximize our use of the mana here. Because we are going to pop this Cart Clan Shaman for 1. I had considered using the Breath Weapon there, but it actually kills my Refurbished Familiars, so I'd rather just boom for 1 there and wipe the board. We go ahead and snuff out the Hydra. The opponent just runs it out as a standard creature instead of bestowing here, and they just scoop it up. So we're headed to game number 3. But the You Meet in a Tavern thing, definitely a little suspect. So we'll have to double check. All right, last and final game of this league. Down to 11, just about 12 minutes. Opponent at 14 minutes, so we are down 2 minutes. We're going to have to play this game 3 pretty quickly. Hopefully it goes similar to the last couple games. This is a pretty solid hand. We're going to have lots of artifacts, Wellspring and Deadly Dispute. We have all 3 of our colors. This is about as good as you can ask for. Don't have any board wipes, which is a little concerning against this deck. We're just going to run it out. Top deck the Wildfire, though, which is amazing. So if they don't ramp into a turn 2 land destruction, we're going to be able to jump back into the play here. Top decking a Snuff Out is very solid. The Winding Way into 3 cards, including an Avenging Hunter. And we're going to go ahead and play another Masked Vandal and another Masked Vandal, which is crazy. 3 Masked Vandals, okay. We're going to play an Ichor Wellspring. Fortunately, they are pretty gated on mana here, so we're just going to go ahead and cash this in for an extra card and stick them at 2 lands. They have a Priest of Titania, which is super annoying, because we have to kill that, even though we don't want to. We do top deck the Analysis, though, so we're just going to go ahead and wipe the board straight up, which is fantastic. We have a Breath Weapon, so we're just going to see if they commit onto the board. They do, which is fantastic, so we're going to EOT Breath Weapon. And we're really just hoping to draw some land here. We haven't seen the land, but Cart Clan Shaman should be pretty good. They play a Nyxborn Hydra. I mean, that's no threat at this point, so we're just going to Deadly Dispute. We hit another Snuff Out, which is great. We can just go ahead and deploy that. Ping them for 1. The power play with Cart Clan Shaman that everybody loves. 1 card goes to 6 cards. Yeah, there's something definitely wrong with that. I believe they only revealed 1 card off of that. You Meet in a Tavern. So definitely something going on there, which is unfortunate. They have a Masked Vandal to go ahead and get rid of our Familiar, which is annoying. But we can Deadly it, so it's not that big a deal. They do, again, have to commit to the board, though. Down to 3 cards in hand, so we're pretty okay with this. Still very middle of the road. Getting down in time, though. We have about 7 minutes. There's lots of game actions to take on this deck, so you've definitely got to stay ahead of things. The opponent is going to tap out for a Hydra, and, well, you guys know how this is going to go. We're definitely going to Toxin Analysis this. We've got to let the Hydra resolve first, and then just blink, and then sack 2 things to wipe the Hydra. Unfortunately, we didn't hold priority on that one, so we unfortunately leave the Hydra up. But it is a 4/5, so it's not that big a deal. They have another You Meet in a Tavern. Takes them up to 8 cards. They only revealed 1 again. Very, very annoying. And we're going to go ahead and try to turn the corner here. We're going to deploy a giant Hydra and get in there. It was a Breath Weapon that wiped the board, for anyone that's curious. And this is actually looking pretty good for us. This is lethal with Toxin Analysis. Unfortunately, they have a Deglamor, which is absolutely brutal. It forces the trade here with the Writhing Chrysalis. So we're not able to take the initiative, which is awful for us. And we've got a Cart Clan Shaman here, but that's not getting through anything. They played Generous End, which actually isn't the worst for us. We're going to Eviscerator's Insight, draw some cards. And we're getting into the nitty-gritty here. 3 minutes left. We're just drawing to see if we can hit a removal spell for this Ent. We go ahead and pop the artifact with the Toxin Analysis to get rid of the Ent. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get through that. Could have held it, but we wanted to deploy this double Writhing Chrysalis, and we didn't want to have to worry about killing them with our own Clark Clan Shaman, so we do it early. Then we go ahead and deploy the Lembas into a Blood Fountain. We have a Troublemaker, oof, so if they do deploy a Hydra here, we're able to get through it. And that is lethal, which is fantastic. It does look like that is the plan from the opponent. We love to see that. And this is Troublemaker, oof, sacrificing the Blood token, exiles the Hydra. You sacrifice both the spawn tokens, and they are dead, which is lethal. Unfortunately, we passed priority through main phase 1, and unfortunately, Time Crunch really just punishes us there. We're crossing our fingers here. We still have a way to make lethal. Maybe. We can Blood Fountain for the Clark Clan Shaman here, which wipes all of their blockers, but unfortunately, that last Avenging Hunter hitting the Avenging Hunter causes this to be even more convoluted. So now we've got to... This is some craziness. So the Chrysalis triggers here are going to make these both 6/7s. We've got Clark Clan Shaman, which could have dealt with the 5/4 and the 4/1 in order to get these through unblocked after Troublemaker oofing the Nyxborn Hydra. Now we have to wait. We unfortunately can't get through this 8/7, even with our Clark Clan Shaman, because it will kill our Writhing Chrysalises, which is super annoying. But we are under a minute and a half now. And we are in the thick of it. So we're going to Deadly Dispute. That shows us a Nyxborn Hydra, which is actually lethal here. If we can get to our next turn, we're gonna go for it. 56 seconds, 53 seconds. We're gonna Clark Clan Shaman, we're gonna Hydra. Have to click through all of these pays. We're gonna play the Hydra. We're gonna sacrifice all the stuff. Down to 15 seconds, down to 10 seconds, down to 5 seconds, down to 3 seconds. Assign damage. And look at that. 0 seconds, -3 life. The game has ended. Unfortunately, the game was recorded as a draw, so the match results in a draw. And we end this league 3-1-1. I've never actually had a match end in a draw before on MTGO. Very, very strange, but a fantastic league and a really good showing for this deck. This deck is very, very powerful. Unfortunately, just punted to time pressure. Should have had the win on this one. Feel like I still probably should have won on this attack. I had 2 seconds left when I clicked attack with all, and I F6'd to auto pass through priority. I was spamming OK for the damage assignment of the trample, and unfortunately it put me to 0. So still think I should have had the win here, but it is what it is. We take them. Final thoughts on this deck. This deck seems like it has play into just about everything. I definitely think I could have won that mono red matchup if I hadn't blundered that Clark Clan Shaman turn. Realistically, I was playing around the opponent having like a bushwhacker into a bunch of dudes. Didn't need to. Could have just taken the 4 there and then dealt with it the next turn. Realistically, the opponent had the cast into fire, so he was going to blow out my Cleansing Wildfire anyway. But at the end of the day, he wouldn't have been able to play his next 4 creatures. We would have been able to hold him back like that. So could have played it a little bit more greedy, and it would have ended up working out. I really just didn't want the opponent to do something like at the end of my turn, kill my dude, force me to pop it, and then have like creature and a bushwhacker or something like that. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. Deck feels fantastic. I think I let the deck down, not the other way around. And I hope you enjoyed this league, guys. I really, really liked this deck. Shout out to Nyx and their team. Once again, Luke, amazing finish and great job tuning this deck. You guys did a fantastic job, and I really, really enjoy this list. Now to tell you guys about the game. At some point during this video, you may have seen little letters and or numbers pop up, and you may have to backtrack and go find a few of them because they're going to be around the screen. Sometimes they'll be over there. Sometimes they'll be over there. Sometimes they might be down here. But that is a giveaway code. So for the first one of you lucky viewers that finds all of the digits of that code and cashes it in, that is for some play points on MTGO. There are 20 total digits in that code, so make sure you go through the video very carefully to find them all. And as usual, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Good luck in your leagues, and I'll catch you guys next time. Goodbye forever, unless I see you next time. Peace.